The Boston Celtics' dreams of going to Las Vegas for the inaugural in-season tournament are dead. They fall to the Indiana Pacers in the quarterfinals, 122 to 112. We got all the coverage you need, and we're going to figure out what happened tonight, and we'll let you know coming up here on Green with Envy. What up, what up, what up? Welcome into another post-game edition here of Green with Envy. As always, it's your boy Will Weir checking in. How you doing? How you living? Joining me as he does each and every time, my pick and pop partner, my best friend, coach of the podcast, co-host, the one and only Greg Manakis. How you doing, man?
I'm good. I guess when you're as good as Tyrese Haliburton, you don't really need a pick and pop partner. You just do it all yourself.
Bro, I mean, we're going to get into all of this tonight, but that second half from Tyrese Haliburton, we got just to tease it out. We do have a podcast dropping with Steve Cerruti coming up here later in the week. We talked a little bit about Tyrese Haliburton and, just who he is and who he can become and how he's already looking like, all NBA rules are changing, but he's looking like he's that dude. He's that dude on those all NBA discussions. And, before we get to the morning box score and break it all down, man, tonight was fun. Like, listen, it sucks the Celtics. Let's just say it goes without saying this night is always way better if the Celtics win. So I'm not saying that it doesn't matter, but just from the concept of the in-season tournament. And by the way, this is one of the worst courts. I just want to point that out real quick. I know
enough with your worst courts. Move on.
That court. Honestly, I felt like I was seeing shit out there of like just awkward way people were moving, and like the part of it I thought was the court fuck with me, but that was one of the ugliest courts they have. Anyway,
I think this is a personal problem. You need to go see your optometrist, get it figured out why colors are such an issue for you.
I'm telling you, if we could do a poll, this is one of the ones that sticks out as this was just a bad court. Anyways, the energy in this game was fucking awesome, right? Like, especially because at the very beginning of the game, I don't know that I felt that playoff intensity. Like you get sometimes right at the tip of a playoff game. It didn't quite get there immediately, but certainly as the game went on, you felt it kind of leveling up and up. And by that, end of the third quarter and all the way through that fourth quarter, that crowd was electric and you could feel it through the TV. Had me sitting up on my couch. Like I'm not normally doing that on a December 4th, regular season game, but it definitely had an added level of importance to it. And that was cool in itself for sure.
Yeah, I watched the game with a couple buddies. My guy, Brett, who's an Indiana guy, he came over wearing his Reggie Miller jersey. My guy, Michael, he's a big Celtics fan. So they came over, we were watching the game. And throughout the game, that was something we said the whole time. He was like, this is just fun. This is fun. And we were kind of giving Brett some shit towards the end of the game. It's like, oh, you guys are winning your championship now. Like, no big deal. He's like, come on. Like, you really want to win this. And I did want to win it. But at the same time, I was just appreciating that we had like this level of basketball in early December. Like I really appreciated that because I had a lot of fun watching Haliburton. We'll get into it here in a second, but Nesmith was awesome. It was good seeing him.
The Crash Nesmith revenge game was not great on my bingo board, but to that point that you're saying, like, yes, this is a different level for the teams like the Pacers, teams like the Kings that, maybe they won't be in the conference finals or the finals as we're expecting. So maybe they will be because Tyrese Haliburton is that good. So maybe they will be. So I don't want to sell them short on it, but that is what made this tournament so cool is that, you think of like this had like an NCAA tournament feel in all the best ways. And for one night, the Pacers can do this. Now, if this were an actual playoff series, whether this is game 1, game 3, and the Pacers, pull this off, that's really cool. That's a nice story. End of the day, more than likely, the Celtics are going to even it out across a 7-game series, that they're going to find a way to take advantage of some of the things that we saw in spurts tonight that we'll talk about that maybe they didn't quite go to enough. And over 7 games, maybe the Pacers get a game, maybe they get 2. And listen, like I said, they're a team on the way up, so I don't really necessarily want to sell them short, but this could be a very short-lived moment in a series. But in an environment like this is it. It's just this, and this is part of what the NBA doesn't have that maybe a sport like NFL gets compared to a lot. When look at the ratings for this and that, all that bullshit that I don't really care about. Like it's we know the NFL is on once a fucking week. Like it's way easier to tune in. But when you look at their playoff system, like that's part of what makes it so crazy is that the 9-7 Jaguars might make a run to the AFC Championship because in one night, they can take out the Chiefs, and so in a night like tonight, the Pacers were that team and they took out the Celtics.
Yeah, you want to get into the morning box score?
Let's go ahead and cue that up. So let's get the morning box score going here for the Celtics and Pacers. Let's hit it up. All right. Indiana Pacers take down the Boston Celtics 122-112. They are advancing to the semifinals in Las Vegas for the in-season tournament. Let's start with the Pacers, and we've already been hyping him up. Tyrese Haliburton, which shockingly, this was his first triple-double that he's ever had in his career. I found that kind of hard to believe, but 10 of 18 from the field, 5-11 from three, 10 rebounds, 13 assists, and 0 turnovers. Just remember, 13 assists and 0 turnovers, 26 points on the night. Just an electric performance from him. Miles Turner, 17 points, 10 rebounds. Buddy Hield chipped in with 21, and I don't know what the line was tonight. Buddy Hield had a little dagger 3 at the very end of the game, so I don't know if that I
think it was minus 4.5 coming into the game.
Okay, so maybe it didn't matter either way, but that was interesting to see him get that. And then, as we said, the revenge game from Aaron Nesmith, Crash Nesmith, 6 of 10 from the field, 14 points, but was very energetic in this game, and you could tell it was one that he really, really wanted to win. We'll talk more about him in just a minute. Going over to the Celtics side of things, let's start it off with the Jays. We'll start with Jason Tatum, who is the now reigning Eastern Conference Player of the Month. Shout out to him for snagging that award prior to the game. 13 of 26 from the field, only 2 of 8 from 3, 4 of 7 from the line. Weird night for Tatum at the line tonight. Did have 12 rebounds, 6 assists, 1 steal, 32 points on the night for him. Jaylen Brown, 14 of 23, 2 of 7 from three-point line, 30 points, 9 rebounds for him. Derek White, 7 of 16 from the field, 18 points, 8 assists for him. 15 points from Sam Hauser, who was the main source of three-pointers made for the Celtics tonight. Made, I think, half of the Celtics three-pointers, or just about, made 5 out of 12 of them. He had 15 points off the bench. I mentioned before that Tyrese Haliburton had 0 turnovers. Celtics tonight, 17 turnovers to just 6 from the Indiana Pacers, and that is a very big reason for why this game ends up in the favor of Indiana. Greg, I mean, do we start with the brilliance of Tyrese and how he flipped this game, or do you want to kind of go through where maybe the Celtics had some opportunities but didn't quite hit their mark tonight with the Pacers?
Well, I'm not a big fan of basketball as math, but we lost the 3-point line tonight. We were 12 for 41 from 3, 29%. And you look at the Pacers, they were 19 for 40, right? So that's plus 21 at the 3-point line for the Pacers. You factor in being minus 11 turnovers. Not really a recipe for success. Individually, I think we had some opportunities to take advantage of Miles Turner being on the court. I think we did at times. We were getting to the rim, blowing by him anytime that he was switched out to somebody on the perimeter. And then down the stretch, we kind of got away from that a little bit. I felt like we let him just sit in the corner, guarding Horford. I think we should have brought him up into the action a little bit more. That's one of those things, crunch time offense for the Celtics. It was a tie game, I think like 104 with like 2:30 left in the game. That's when
before the 4-point shot that Haliburton hit.
That's when Haliburton hits that 4-point play. And then from there, when those plays happen, you just got to be like, all right, it's your night. It's absolutely your night. Haliburton hit 2 off balance 3-pointers with a
fumbling
hand
the ball
face.
Like I honestly, I tweeted this out too. I don't know how he shoots the ball so effectively with the way he, like the physical way that he shoots the ball, and for him to be as effective as he is off the bounce and I mean, he hit a couple of them from several feet behind the 3-point line off the bounce. Like, it's incredible what Tyrese Haliburton can do. But, to your point of attacking Miles Turner, I think in general, just attacking the basket, the Celtics were just inconsistent with what their approach was tonight. And, you and Caitlin Cooper talked about it on kind of the preview podcast, right? That the Celtics want to shoot threes and the Pacers are really bad at defending the rim. And so it's like, what's gonna give? Are the Celtics gonna just keep shooting threes if they don't have it? Or are they just gonna put relentless pressure on the rim? And there were times tonight where that's what they did, and it was successful. And then for some reason, they would kind of go away from it. And there would even be times where I thought the Celtics were a little over passive, meaning in the sense that they got in the middle of the lane, but then we're looking to kick it back out rather than just continue to attack the rim. And they only shot, let me see, I think I looked at this earlier, they only shot 12 free throws tonight. Like that's a pretty big indication that you weren't going to the rim enough. And
just real quick on that, I wouldn't even say that. I think that's more the Pacers just being that bad at defense. Like anytime the Celtics got to the rim, they pretty much got a layup. And the Pacers
right.
didn't foul. They were just like, oh, you go. You drove by Miles Turner again. You have a wide open runway to the rim. Like I don't really have a problem with how much the Celtics were attacking the rim. To me, it was more just like not specifically attacking Miles Turner in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with that because there was a couple times where Jalen did attack him, and it was like, oh, just do that more. And there were, especially you look at the beginning of the second half, I felt like Tatum and Brown in the first, until basically they brought in the bench unit, that Tatum and Brown were just basically alternating like, hey, we can get to the rim anytime we want to. And then when they brought in that second unit, that third quarter just seemingly fell apart for the Celtics. And that was a disaster. Lost that quarter by 14 points, just a really, really bad quarter. But you could see it in spurts and stretches. Jalen was awesome in the first half attacking the basket. Tatum started the game doing it, then kind of went away from it. Then towards the end of the first half and beginning of the second half, he got back into it. And it was just a kind of an odd offensive approach, it felt like, or disjointed offensive approach might be the best way to put it from the Celtics tonight.
Yeah, and I don't even know if I would describe it as disjointed, man. Like they shot 41 3-point shots, 97 field goal attempts total, right? So they're normally around 50%, maybe even more than 50% of their shot attempts coming from three. So I really don't have a problem with like the overall balance of where the shots were coming from, to be honest with you. I think there were a few key moments in which I feel like they should have attacked when they didn't, specifically down the stretch. I feel like Tatum probably could have got to the rim anytime that he wanted. They were trying to take advantage of Holiday in the post, which is what I thought they would do. But Derek White, he had a decent game, 18 points, 8 assists, 4 rebounds, but he had those 5 turnovers. And White was if you're talking about a disjointed individual player, I feel like it was a little bit of a disjointed game from Derek White, where he didn't really know exactly.
He had a couple of passes that were very un-Derek White-like.
Where it was the charge on Nesmith. Like you never see Derek White get an offensive foul, like almost never. Just like not really sure of where the spaces were on the court for him to be successful. He did obviously, he had 18 points. He had his moments, but overall it wasn't like the classic Derek White game. And then when you juxtapose the way that he played and the way that Holiday played, who Holiday also didn't have a great game. Juxtapose that with Tyrese Haliburton, who was the best player on the court. Let's just call it what it is. Haliburton was the best player on the court tonight. It's just not a great look for the Celtics stock exchange and their vaunted backcourt to get outplayed to that degree by Haliburton. And then Nesmith, I think we should talk about Nesmith here in a second. But is there anything else you want to say about the backcourt or?
I wanted to hit on Holiday for a minute. Okay. He was a -15 tonight. Just, looking at, I'm not, like I said, not the plus minus is everything, but a -15 for Jrue Holiday tonight. And of course, his defense is always going to be his calling card. And he made some really nice defensive plays in this game. But I am starting to, as far as the experiment goes of getting all the Celtics star players, their touches and their looks on offense, I feel like it's still very inconsistent for Jrue Holiday as to where he feels comfortable within this offense, as far as, scoring the basketball. We saw a couple of threes that were forced up tonight, and, he's 3 of 9 from the field, 1 of 5 from 3. I still don't really know if I have a feel for where I would expect Jrue Holiday to get his offensive points from. And I don't think this team does either. I think that's still part of kind of the figuring it out process is what is Drew Holiday's main role going to be in this offense, because he's capable of certainly more than what we've seen tonight. Not always needed, but he's capable than more of what happened tonight. But I think that's still just kind of an interesting piece of this puzzle that I don't really have it figured out, and I don't think the Celtics have it figured out either.
For sure. And then, I think Horford also, who's been
Yeah.
great lately, the one bucket that he had was that blow by on Miles Turner. He only had 3 shot attempts tonight.
He had two
And I
other
think,
times where he could have done that same play, but that was one of my examples of being a little passive. He
yeah.
moved the ball for a 3-point shot rather than going for that layup, which he eventually did.
Right. And with Horford, and I think it's part of this is the Pacers scheme, is that Horford doesn't necessarily love driving off the closeout. That's not really his game. He's going to shoot. He's either going to move the ball to the next guy or he's going to shoot the 3. You see Al like once every 2 games
in the
rip
playoffs,
through.
he's more willing to do it. Regular season, he definitely has the focus of either
Well,
shoot it or move it.
Yeah, I mean he might turn it, rip through into a post up, but he's not really going to like go for a blow by. And I think that's partially due to the Pacers scheme. They hug up on the 3-point line and they kind of he was being covered by Miles Turner at times. I think that we should have taken advantage of Horford more as a screener and like rolling into the short roll. We didn't really do that much at all, bringing Turner up into the action. So yeah, I mean, Holiday didn't play great. He needs to find his way on the offensive side of the ball. I think that a lot of his early chemistry was with Porzingis, who's been out for a little bit. So we'll see how that goes once Porzingis is back. Hauser, though, man, one thing I was thinking towards the end of the game was like, because Horford wasn't really doing much on either end of the court, really, he held his own, I guess, on the defensive end, but it wasn't like the class.
It was a very quiet night for Al Horford.
Yeah. So I was wondering if we were going to throw Sam back out there because he was the one guy that was getting off at the 3-point line, and he held up really well once again on the defensive side of the ball.
6 rebounds. He was great crashing from the weak side, both offensively and defense. It was a really nice Sam Hauser game tonight. He definitely deserves some kudos for his play tonight.
Right. Yeah. So I was just wondering if Joe was going to try it out, benching Horford down the stretch. I think the last game we played, who did we play in the last game?
That was against Philly, the backup Philly squad. With no Maxey and
I think it was the Philly
Embiid
squad where they ended up getting Horford off the court. One of the last 2 games down the stretch, Horford was getting blown by a little bit, and they decided to get him off the court in crunch time. And I felt like, there was a world in which maybe when the Celtics got down by 7 points with 1:30 left, that they were going to throw Hauser back out there just to add that 3-point variance in there. But, with the Pacers, man, they're just a fun team. They're a fun team to watch. They're kind of like that classic recipe for a giant killer in March Madness. They have the really quick guards. They spread the floor. They shoot a lot of 3-pointers. Haliburton has the potential to be the best player any given night. And then when you factor in that Haliburton probably should have won Player of the Month, and it went to Tatum, and he had a little bit more to play for. And then Neesmith's revenge game, which Neesmith was awesome. I kept saying like, it's so cool to see Neesmith turn into something because I think everybody in Boston really liked Neesmith. It was just, he couldn't shoot his rookie year, and now he's kind of figured it out.
Well, and this is one of the fascinating things about developing guys in the NBA, right? Some guys can go the Anthony Simons or CJ McCollum route. CJ McCollum's probably a better example of, a guy who sat for basically 2 years, got some spot minutes, and then he was developing in the background. I think Neesmith is the example of a guy who needs to need to be allowed to get out there, fail, learn from that, and then figure out how to pick a spot, how to be whatever player he's going to become. And the Celtics only have room for him to be the 3-and-D guy that we tried to draft and plug and play. And it just wasn't going to happen in the development, the way that he's gotten an opportunity to play with a younger Indiana team. And so I thought it was funny when you were talking with Caitlin the other day on the podcast, and you were asking her, did the Crash nickname make its way over? And she's like, it's not quite as prevalent. And the couple of Indiana games that I've watched, I've seen him flying all over the place. So I assumed that it had probably made its way there because he's just an Energizer bunny. Like, that guy does not stop. He got he had the offensive foul that you mentioned from Derek White. He had the block on Tatum at the rim. When he had that dunk, I mean, that felt like peak big NCAA tourney game or a big game at like Duke, like a big time college, where it felt like, are these people going to fucking storm the court? Like
Right.
there was
Yeah.
still like a minute left in the game. The Celtics hit a couple threes and, ended up being 10 points, but there was still kind of hanging around. But that's when you knew definitively that the game was over. But Aaron Nesmith being the catalyst for this revenge game, didn't see it coming. And honestly, it came on pretty late, right? Like it was midway through the third to the end of the game is really when you felt Aaron Nesmith. Up until that point, I would say, I wouldn't say he was a non-factor, but he wasn't that much of a factor. And then really at the end of the game, his energy just seemed to kind of take over, along with obviously the brilliance that Tyrese Haliburton was bringing.
Yeah, he even hit Derek White with the too small. Got Derek White a
Oh,
little bit
he hit him with an
upset.
extra too small. Did you
Dude,
see
he
that?
pretty much touched the
He went
court.
down to I'm
Yeah.
saying he
Yeah.
threw a little disrespect, my guy. Like I feel like I hope someone shows Derek White that tape for the next time.
Well,
We
Derek
gotta
White was
have a little
pissed.
something.
Derek White said something to him when it happened. But it was interesting to see the Pacers offense was basically Haliburton and spread pick and roll and then going like dribble handoffs with Aaron Nesmith. Like that's kind of what they did. Buddy Hield was spacing the floor. Miles Turner wasn't really doing much. They went to him in the post a few times.
Yeah,
He
they got a
had a
couple
nice.
mismatches on that. I think that might have been part of, even though they were getting that mismatch with Horford on the court, that might have been part of Joe's reluctance to go with Hauser over Horford, is just
Right.
giving them that without even having to
But
switch
hey,
into it.
if it's Miles Turner in the post or Sam Hauser, Miles Turner in the post against Sam Hauser or Tyrese Haliburton shooting 3-pointers
Yeah.
against Al Horford, like I'd probably prefer, even though Haliburton's threes weren't really against Horford. He did hunt the switch pocket. I like that term that Caitlin used on the pod, hunting the switch pocket for that 1-3 that he hit against Jalen. The last 2 threes, I think he was really hunting that switch pocket.
That 4-point play.
Man,
like I said, the way he shoots the ball, I don't even know how. Like when I saw it go up, I knew Jalen was going to get called for a foul on it, but like the way that he released the ball, I was like, "There's no chance this thing goes in," and just whap. I was,
yeah.
it didn't make sense to my eyes.
Yeah, man, he's it's not how you would teach it, but it works for him, and you don't want to fix it if it ain't broke, and that thing is definitely not broke. Yeah, but just looking at that team, I think they were one of the teams that I was always excited to watch last year because of Haliburton, and they always played the Celtics relatively well. They were always fun games. But my guy Nemhard didn't really do anything tonight, man. I was a little upset that he didn't get a chance. They went to TJ McConnell in the first half. McConnell killed us in the first game, so I was wondering if that was part of it.
He had a brief moment here where he had a steal and a couple other. He just professional pest that is TJ McConnell.
Yeah.
He had like a quick 3-minute stretch of pure TJ McConnell that was favorable for them. But this team is fun, dude. Like even Obi Toppin, who had a pretty, he had an okay night. There was that one, I think it was in the first half, where Tyrese tried to throw him an alley-oop.
Oh my God, yeah.
I was like, holy shit. The fact that he almost put that in, that was nuts watching how high Obi Toppin could get up. Dude, Tyrese Haliburton, I just can't get over how good Tyrese Haliburton is. Like that was
he's a hell of a player, man. And speaking of Haliburton, the game that's on right now, which I definitely want to go watch, Kings against Pelicans. You get to see De'Aaron Fox, and we were talking about this with Cerruti today. Kind of, was it with Cerruti? We were talking about the trade. All these
that's what I mentioned.
NFL basketball are running together. Yeah, but I'm excited to go watch the rest of this tournament. I think overall, my biggest takeaway is that in-season tournament, huge win for the NBA. It's getting better and better into these knockout rounds. I love that they decided to have the first round at a home court versus a neutral site.
Yeah.
So I think that's a really cool element to this that I hadn't considered how much fun that would be for a team like the Pacers. And my buddy Brett, who's from Indiana, was pumped about it. He was like, I can't even remember the last time we've been in the playoffs. Like, has Miles Turner even been in the playoffs with this team? I was like, Miles Turner you guys made the playoffs like 5 times with Miles Turner.
He was there for like the end of the Paul George era. He was there for
his rookie year, Paul George's last year. Yeah,
exactly.
He was like, yeah, you're right, but it doesn't feel like it because we lose every time. So this was a good opportunity for Tyrese Haliburton to become a winner. Happy for Aaron Nesmith. Stinks the Celtics lost.
Yeah.
The crunch time offense stuff, we can talk about that another day. Today, I just want to kind of keep it positive, just like kind of reacting to the game and the fun that it was. Anything else you want to talk about?
No, just so what this means now for the Celtics. So obviously they're not going to Vegas for Thursday night, which is going to be when the semifinals will happen. So the Celtics now next play on Friday at the TD Garden. They'll have to wait till tomorrow night to see who the loser of the Knicks Bucks game is. So either way, Celtics are going to have a really another great game, a great matchup on Friday night as they'll take on either the Bucks or the Knicks, and that will kind of complete their 82 game schedule with the 2 games that we're missing. So we'll have to see who else joins the Pacers in Vegas.
Who do you want it to be?
That's a good question. So I think at this point, like I think I want the Bucks to get there because I like the idea of having, like we've talked about, this mix and match of what we think are potentially true championship contenders.
You're going to get that in the West no matter what, because it's Lakers, Suns, and then Pelicans.
Exactly.
Things. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's automatically guaranteed. Where if it's like the Knicks Pacers, I feel like those are like, the Knicks are a great fan base, but it's not going to be in Madison Square Garden. It's going to be in Vegas, so it won't be quite as cool. If it was Knicks Pacers and you got to have it in the Garden with all the Knicks Pacers history, like that would be super cool. But I think having Giannis there as like the East representative, like still Hallie on the way up, he slayed Jason Tatum. Can he take down Giannis? And then waiting for him is potentially Durant or Booker, or it's the Kings Pacers collide. The Sabonis Haliburton trade saga comes. So I think those are all kind of the.
I'm rooting for that. I want that to happen.
Yeah, I think that would be. That would be pretty cool, I think, for an event like that to happen. So we'll see. But we got some other great interviews coming up here this week for Green with Envy. So lock in with us. We have Steve Cerruti, who joined the podcast today. We recorded earlier. That will be dropping on Wednesday. And then if all things go correctly, we hope to have a really special guest that we'll be recording with later this week. So I want to make sure that's all finalized and recorded before we start promoting that. But make sure you're locked in. Make sure you join the Discord. Come rock with us. On the Discord, you can find the link in the description here on YouTube or on wherever you are listening to your audio, wherever you listen to podcasts. Check our bio links. We got it there. But Greg, I know it's not the happiest of times because we wish the Celtics were moving on, but I think we got to play it out one last time.
You
ready? And that's going to do it. We'll catch y'all later. Peace.